I should have known something was wrong the moment we got back from our honeymoon. She wasn't the same. Gone was the sweet, loving woman I married. In her place was someone colder, sharper, distant. At first, I thought it was just post-wedding stress, or maybe she was just tired from the trip. I kept making excuses for her silence, her sighs, the way she looked at her phone like it mattered more than me. But the truth? The truth was uglier than anything I could have imagined. My name's Daniel. I'm 32. I work in IT, make decent money, nothing flashy. I've always been the stable guy, the one people could rely on. That's who I was when I met Jessica. She was stunning. The kind of woman who walked into a room and made heads turn without even trying. She worked in marketing, knew how to sell anything, including herself. But with me, she was soft. Sweet? Or at least, that's what I believed. We dated for 2 years before I proposed. She cried. Said yes. Told me I made her feel safe. I thought that was love. The wedding was beautiful. A small ceremony in Napa Valley. White dress, soft music, dancing under fairy lights. I remember looking at her and thinking, this is it. I've won. But less than 3 weeks later, I started losing. It began with her staying late at work. Then came the secretive texts. The locked phone. The sudden trips to visit her mom, who, by the way, lives 2 hours away. I wasn't stupid. Just in love. And when you're in love, you give people too much room to lie. The first time I really suspected something was when I came home early on a Thursday. She wasn't there. But her car was in the driveway. The bedroom door was shut. Music playing low. I stood outside for a full minute before knocking. She opened it, hair messy, cheeks flushed, shirt button wrong. I was napping, she said. Didn't hear you come in. Napping? Fully dressed? In July? I didn't push it. I wanted to believe her. That was my first mistake. The second was ignoring the smell. Cologne. Not mine. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, feeling like my chest was being crushed by something invisible and cruel. I had no proof. Just instincts. And instincts can drive you insane. So I started watching. Waiting. Looking for cracks in the story I so badly wanted to hold together. And they came. Oh, they came fast and hard. One night, she left her phone on the kitchen counter while she went to shower. It was face down, charging. I stared at it like it was a loaded gun. I'd never touched her phone before. I believed in privacy. In trust. In respect. But respect is a two-way street, and I was starting to feel like I was walking alone. My hands shook as I picked it up. No password. Strange. She always locked it. Always. The universe was tempting me, and I gave in. The first thing I saw was a message from someone named M. Last night was incredible. Can't stop thinking about it. My stomach turned. I opened the thread. It wasn't just last night. It was nights. Weeks. Photos. Messages. Voice notes. I hate having to pretend with him. When are you taking me away like you promised? He's so clueless. I feel bad sometimes. But not enough to stop. I dropped the phone like it burned me. Everything inside me went quiet. Like the moment right before a storm hits, that eerie, suffocating silence. She was cheating. Not just physically. Emotionally. Completely. And worse, she wasn't sorry. She wasn't conflicted. She wasn't torn between two loves. She was mocking me. My hands clenched into fists. My jaw locked. I stood there in the dim kitchen light, surrounded by the ghost of a marriage that had died before it ever really lived. When she came out of the shower, wrapped in a towel, smiling, humming, I looked at her and realized I didn't know this woman. I'd married a stranger. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I wanted to know more. Needed to understand how deep the betrayal went. How long she'd been lying. Who M was. Why. So I started playing her game. Pretending. Acting normal. Kissing her goodnight with lips that felt poisoned. Every touch from her felt like fire on my skin, not warmth, but the kind that leaves scars. She had no idea I knew. And that's when I realized she didn't fear losing me. Because in her mind, she already had. One night, she left her phone on the kitchen counter while she went to shower. It was face down, charging. I stared at it like it was a loaded gun. I'd never touched her phone before. I believed in privacy. In trust. In respect. But respect is a two-way street, and I was starting to feel like I was walking alone. My hands shook as I picked it up. No password. Strange. She always locked it. Always. The universe was tempting me, and I gave in. The first thing I saw was a message from someone named M. Last night was incredible. Can't stop thinking about it. My stomach turned. I opened the thread. It wasn't just last night. It was nights. Weeks. Photos. Messages. Voice notes. I hate having to pretend with him. When are you taking me away like you promised? He's so clueless. I feel bad sometimes, but not enough to stop. I dropped the phone like it burned me. Everything inside me went quiet. Like the moment right before a storm hits, that eerie, suffocating silence. She was cheating. Not just physically. Emotionally. Completely. And worse, she wasn't sorry. She wasn't conflicted. She wasn't torn between two loves. She was mocking me. My hands clenched into fists. My jaw locked. I stood there in the dim kitchen light, surrounded by the ghost of a marriage that had died before it ever really lived. When she came out of the shower, wrapped in a towel, smiling, humming, I looked at her and realized I didn't know this woman. I'd married a stranger. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I wanted to know more. Needed to understand how deep the betrayal went. How long she'd been lying. Who M was. Why. So I started playing her game. Pretending. Acting normal. Kissing her goodnight with lips that felt poisoned. Every touch from her felt like fire on my skin, not warmth, but the kind that leaves scars. She had no idea I knew. And that's when I realized she didn't fear losing me. Because in her mind, she already had. I sat there in the car, frozen, staring at the entrance she'd just disappeared into with him. My heart wasn't racing anymore, it was hollow. This wasn't just about sex. This wasn't a wild, passionate mistake or a moment of emotional confusion. She wasn't stolen from me by love. She was purchased. Rented. Upgraded. That man wasn't just her lover, he was her sponsor. I watched them from afar, the way she looked at him, not with passion but with calculation. Her smile wasn't soft like it used to be with me. It was polished. Strategic. Practiced. I realized then she had never been in love with me. She had been waiting. Waiting for someone who could give her more. On the way home, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just drove in silence, gripping the wheel, every muscle in my jaw tight with rage and disbelief. I remembered how she used to laugh at luxury cars, saying they were a waste of money. How she'd roll her eyes at influencers and women who sold themselves for bags and trips. I remembered those nights we lay awake talking about the future, kids, a house, vacations we'd take. I thought she wanted those things with me. But now I saw the truth. She wanted the lifestyle. And I was just a placeholder. A stepping stone. The nice guy who paid the bills until someone richer came along. That night, she came home late, smelling like his cologne. She kissed me on the cheek and said, "My sister says hi." I nodded. Said nothing. I watched her walk into the bedroom, watched her undress, shower, slip into the bed we once made love in, the bed that now felt like a grave. I lay beside her, eyes open, my back turned, listening to her breathing even out as she drifted into sleep, calm, unaware that I knew everything. That her carefully constructed illusion was shattering right beside her. But I didn't confront her yet. Not because I was afraid. I wasn't. I was patient. Strategic. Just like she had been. I wanted to destroy this the right way. I started making copies of everything, the messages, the hotel receipts, the photos. I even hired a private investigator to follow her, document her every meeting, every lie. I became methodical. Cold. Detached. If she was going to treat our marriage like a business deal, then I'd handle the ending like a contract termination, with evidence, with precision, with no way for her to twist the story later. Because when I finally confronted her, I wanted there to be no doubt. No denials. No gaslighting. I wanted her to see herself through my eyes, not just as a cheater, but as a calculated traitor who exchanged love for luxury. And most of all, I wanted to watch her world fall apart as she realized I wasn't the fool she thought I was. In the days that followed, I became someone else. I wore the same clothes, said the same words, but underneath I was unrecognizable, even to myself. I went to work like usual, smiled at her when I got home, asked her about her day like I cared. I played my part so perfectly even I almost believed it sometimes. But behind that mask, I was gathering every thread, pulling at every loose string in her story until the entire tapestry of our marriage began to unravel in my hands. The private investigator was worth every penny. Within a week, I had high-resolution photos of her entering his apartment, leaving in different clothes, meeting him for lunch during work hours, kissing him in parking lots. There were dates, locations, timestamps. Cold, undeniable proof. He found out his name, Marcus Bell. 46. Divorced. Owns a chain of upscale furniture stores. Drives a Tesla. Lives in a penthouse suite overlooking the marina. A man used to getting what he wants. And apparently what he wanted was my wife. But what gutted me the most were the audio recordings. The PI had planted a listening device in Marcus's car. I heard their conversations. The way she laughed for him. The way she spoke about me like I was some outdated relic she was ashamed of. "He's so nice it's boring," she said. He's sweet, but sweet doesn't pay for first class. Marcus chuckled and told her, soon enough, you won't need to pretend anymore. She replied, just a few more months. I want half of everything when I leave him. That was it. That was the moment something inside me cracked wide open. This wasn't just cheating. It was strategy. She had married me with a plan. Wait a year, maybe two, and walk away with half my assets while upgrading to a better life. I wasn't her partner, I was an investment. An interim phase. And all this time I had been loving her honestly while she was plotting my ruin with a smile on her face. But I wasn't going to let her win. I called a lawyer, a quiet, ruthless man who specialized in high-conflict divorce. We started building my case in secret. With all the evidence I had, the infidelity clause in our prenup would destroy any claim she thought she had to my money. That's right, she had signed a prenup. At the time she'd laughed, called it unnecessary. I'd never hurt you, she had said. I believed her. God help me, I believed her. And now that lie would be the rope she'd hang herself with. I didn't want revenge. I wanted justice. And I was about to give her both. The night I confronted her, it was raining. A steady, rhythmic downpour that soaked the streets and filled the air with the scent of wet asphalt and unresolved tension. She came home late as usual, coat damp, umbrella dripping by the door. I was waiting in the living room, lights dim, laptop open in front of me. She looked surprised, maybe even nervous, when she saw me sitting there, silent, still, staring straight through her. Hey, babe, she said casually, brushing the rain from her shoulders. You're up late. I didn't answer. I just turned the laptop toward her. On the screen was a video, grainy, black and white security footage of her kissing Marcus in the lobby of his building. She froze. Her smile died in an instant. Her breath hitched, and for the first time in months, I saw something real on her face, fear. What is this? She whispered, already knowing the answer. I know everything, I said, my voice low even. Every text, every lie, every time you crawled into his bed and came home to me pretending you were at your sister's. She sat down slowly, her face pale, hands trembling. Daniel, I can explain. No, I interrupted. Don't insult me further. This isn't some emotional mistake, Jess. This was planned. Calculated. You didn't just cheat. You schemed. You used me. Her lips parted as if searching for the right words, but all that came out was a weak, it's not what you think. I laughed, sharp, bitter, hollow. Isn't it? Because what I think is that you married me for stability. Waited until something shinier came along. And now you think you can walk away with half of everything I built. She was silent. Guilty silence. The kind that screams louder than words ever could. I slid a thick manila envelope across the table. Inside were printouts, texts, emails, bank statements, photos. Everything. Her betrayal in full color. My lawyer has copies, I said. And thanks to the prenup you were so eager to dismiss, you walk away with nothing. No alimony. No assets. Not even the condo. You want a fresh start? Marcus can pay for it. That last line hit her. I saw it in her eyes, the panic, the dawning realization that her plan was crumbling right in front of her. She tried to reach for my hand. Daniel, please? I made a mistake. No, I said, pulling away. You made a choice. Repeatedly. And now you get to live with it. The rain outside intensified, drumming against the windows like applause from the universe. Justice had been served. But I didn't feel victorious. I felt free. Broken, but free. And that was the beginning of everything. After she left that night, suitcase hastily packed, hair still wet from the shower, eyes red but dry, the apartment felt like a hollow shell. Not just because she was gone, but because everything she'd touched now felt tainted. The couch where we once cuddled during movie nights was now a relic of lies. The kitchen, once filled with shared laughter and wine-stained kisses, felt cold, clinical, fake. I wandered through the rooms like a stranger, touching picture frames, wiping fingerprints off cabinet handles, deleting her contact from my phone, again and again, like it might erase the memories too. People think heartbreak is loud, screaming, sobbing, crashing to the floor. But in reality, it's quiet. It's making coffee alone at 6 a.m. and realizing no one will ever drink the second cup. It's folding laundry and finding one of her shirts you forgot was there. It's hearing a song in the car that used to be ours and having to pull over because your throat closes and your vision blurs. I didn't miss her. I missed who I thought she was. I missed the life I thought we were building. And that grief, the grief of a future that never existed, was the hardest to bear. Marcus tried to contact me, believe it or not. Sent me some smug email apologizing for the pain this situation caused and insisting that he and Jessica had genuine feelings for each other. I didn't respond. What was there to say? He hadn't stolen anything from me, he just exposed what was already broken. Let him have her. Let him experience the performance, the masks, the manipulation. Eventually, he'd learn what I had, that nothing with her was ever real unless it benefited her. Friends reached out, some shocked, others saying they always had a weird feeling about her. My parents were heartbroken for me. My mother cried when she found out. My father clenched his fists so hard I thought his knuckles might split open. But through it all, I stayed composed. Numb. I told them I was okay even when I wasn't. I told them it was better this way, and part of me meant it. I'd rather face the truth than live a lie, no matter how beautiful that lie once looked. Days turned into weeks. I started clearing out the apartment, her shoes, her makeup, the jewelry box I once gave her for our first anniversary. I sold the engagement ring back to the jeweler, took a loss on it, and walked out without a second glance. Every item I let go of felt like shedding another layer of betrayal. Like making room for air again. For light. For something that wouldn't rot from the inside. But healing isn't linear. And sometimes, late at night, I still woke up reaching for a body that wasn't there. A warmth that never truly belonged to me. That's the cruelty of betrayal. It makes you doubt not just others, but yourself. It took months before I stopped checking my phone for her messages. Habits die slower than love. Every vibration, every unknown number made my heart skip just for a second before I remembered she was gone and she wasn't coming back. Not with an apology. Not with remorse. Just gone like a shadow that never had substance to begin with. I started therapy. I needed to. Not because I couldn't function, but because I didn't want to carry her voice in my head forever, that manipulative echo that told me I wasn't enough, that I was boring, predictable, disposable. The therapist asked me a question during one session that stayed with me. At what point did you stop trusting yourself? It hit harder than I expected. Because the truth was, the real betrayal wasn't that she lied. It was that I knew she was lying and kept pretending I didn't. I let it happen. I made myself smaller so she could feel bigger. I dimmed my own intuition so her deceit wouldn't blind me. And for what? A version of love that required me to abandon myself? So I rebuilt. Not just my routines, not just the apartment, me. I picked up old hobbies again. I ran farther each morning just to feel my lungs burn with something other than anxiety. I reconnected with friends I'd neglected during the marriage. I started reading again, not relationship books, but novels, essays, anything that reminded me the world was bigger than one woman's betrayal. Slowly, the emptiness inside me turned into space for new experiences, new thoughts, and eventually, new people. And then one evening, sitting on a park bench with a coffee in hand, I looked around and realized something I hadn't in a long time. I was at peace. Not happy, not yet. But still. Whole in my own skin. I wasn't waiting for her to call or wishing things had gone differently. I was present. Breathing. Reclaiming moments she no longer occupied. The funny thing is, she did try to reach out again. A text. Just one. Can we talk? I stared at the screen for a long time, not because I considered answering, but because I didn't feel a single thing. Not anger. Not longing. Not curiosity. Just nothing. I deleted it and blocked the number without hesitation. That, more than anything, felt like closure. Not a conversation. Not revenge. Just indifference. Because that's the end of a betrayal story, not when they leave, but when you stop looking over your shoulder to see if they regret it. Some scars don't fade, they just stop bleeding. That's how it felt months later, waking up in a bed that finally smelled like just me. The absence of her perfume was no longer a reminder of loss, but a sign of detox. The air felt cleaner. The silence didn't haunt me anymore. It soothed me. I learned to enjoy my own company again, to sit in the stillness without needing someone else to validate my existence. There's something powerful about reclaiming your life inch by inch, not in grand gestures, but in the smallest victories. Cooking dinner for one. Laughing at your own thoughts. Sleeping diagonally in a bed with no guilt and no expectation. I started noticing the world again. The rustle of leaves outside my window. The way sunlight hit the floor in the late afternoon. I even began to remember things I had forgotten during the marriage, the way I used to play guitar, the stories I used to write. Her presence had muted me like a slow-growing fog that dulls everything until you forget what it feels like to see clearly. But now every step away from her was a step back into myself. The man I had been before her, hopeful, kind, maybe a little naive, was gone. But someone stronger had taken his place. And yet, even in healing, there were moments when the past crept in. A scent on a stranger that reminded me of her. A couple holding hands, triggering a flash of us in better days. For a split second, the ache would return, sharp and sudden, and then disappear again, like a muscle memory you've almost trained out of your body. I didn't chase those feelings anymore. I let them come, felt them fully, and then let them go. That was the only way forward. There were days I wondered if Marcus had figured her out yet, if he'd caught her lies, watched her shift personas like clothes. A part of me hoped he hadn't. Let him have the full experience. Let him feel what it's like to be admired until someone wealthier walks by. I didn't wish her misery, not actively. I just hoped someday she'd sit alone in a room she bought with someone else's affection and realize what she lost. Not me, I wasn't the prize. But the version of herself that was once capable of love before she sold it for comfort. By then, though, her opinion of me didn't matter. I wasn't living for her memory or her approval anymore. I had already outgrown the weight of her name. The greatest revenge, I've come to believe, isn't rage or retaliation, it's peace. It's moving on so completely, so quietly that they no longer exist in the architecture of your life. It's the absence of their name in your thoughts, the way their memory becomes a dull echo you no longer turn toward. That was my final chapter with Jessica, not an explosive ending, not a dramatic breakdown. Just silence. Just the slow, deliberate act of reclaiming everything she tried to erode in me, my dignity, my trust, my identity. I never responded to her last message. Never checked to see if she tried again. If she missed me, regretted it, saw me differently in hindsight, that was her burden to carry, not mine. I stopped needing closure the day I realized I had already written it for myself. It didn't come from some perfect explanation or apology. It came from choosing to be free. Free from her games. Free from the warped idea of love she sold me. Free from the belief that her betrayal somehow reflected my worth. Eventually, I moved to a new apartment, nothing extravagant, just mine. Clean slate, clean walls, no memories hiding in the corners. I got a dog. A quiet, loyal rescue named Max who followed me everywhere and asked for nothing but affection and walks. His trust, simple and pure, reminded me that not everything in life is conditional. Not everyone leaves. I started dating again slowly, carefully, with eyes wide open and no illusions. I didn't want to fall in love with another mask. I wanted honesty even if it was messy, even if it scared me. And when I finally met someone who didn't flinch when I told them the truth about my past, someone who didn't see me as broken but simply real, I realized something profound: betrayal doesn't define you. Survival does. Jessica was a chapter, dark, painful, necessary. But she wasn't the whole story. She was the fire that burned everything down so I could rebuild on solid ground. And for that, in some strange, twisted way, I'm grateful. Not for the hurt, but for the clarity it brought. For the strength I never knew I had until I was forced to stand alone. So if you're reading this, if you've been lied to, used, left hollow, let me tell you, it's survivable. Not only that, it's transformative. You will come out stronger, smarter, sharper. You will learn to trust yourself again. And one day you'll look back not with pain, but with pride. Because you didn't just survive the betrayal. You outgrew it. And that is the quietest, most powerful victory of all.